Baby, we were making straight A's, but we were stuck in the dumb days. Don't take much to memorize your lies. I feel like I've been hypnotized. And then that magic man, he come to town. Woo-wee, he done spun my head around. He said recess is in session, 2 and 2 make 5. And now, baby, well, I'm alive. Oh yeah, I am alive. And if you wanna be the teacher's pet, baby, you just better forget it. Rock got no reason, rock got no rhyme. You better get me to school on time.
Welcome back. It's another episode of the Better Learning Podcast. We've been talking movies, school-related movies, and the one that always came up when we were at conferences and talking about it, the number one vote getter was always School of Rock. So I am excited to introduce my co-host today. So we have Matt Rogers, who is one of the producers of the show. He does a lot of stuff from behind the scenes, but we got him in front of a microphone. Matt, how's it going?
Great. Yeah, I feel like since 2019, I was doing the math on it. 2019 was when I started on a lot of the back end work. And this is one of the first times I've been pulled in, at least on the school related movie conversation. So I'm super excited. And this is literally the perfect movie that I would want to get pulled in on. So thanks for having me.
And our other co-host is another person who is familiar with the podcasting world. So Mason Pashia, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
So tell me a little bit, because you've been involved with the Getting Smart podcast for a while.
Yep.
Give me your history. How'd you get involved in all this podcasting stuff?
Yeah, so I started kind of in the arts. If anybody sees my wall behind me, they'll know I'm biased for why I chose School of Rock. There's some guitars back there. And I eventually went into more of like a marketing branding strategy position and figured out that I thought I could solve education, and came up with a wild and crazy idea about bringing artists into the classroom, and then ultimately met Tom Vander Ark through some conversations, who runs Getting Smart. And they brought me on to do some marketing strategy work for Getting Smart. And over the years, that's turned into more of a storytelling capacity. So been there for a while now, run the website and all the blogs and podcasts and publications we do. And then over the course of that, have started hosting some of them on my own.
Very cool. That's what I love about when we have our guests on and they pick the movie. Yeah. It's always like so personal. So hearing that, let's dig into School of Rock. I mean, this is a movie came out in 2003. Jack Black coming in, just he's a rock star, wannabe rock star, and needs to pay the rent and fakes his way into being a substitute teacher.
Up with the rent by the end of the week, he's out of here.
You wake me up for that? Come on!
Dewey Finn would have sold his soul for rock and roll, but nobody was buying.
You're an embarrassment. You're out.
Maybe it's time to give up those dreams.
Don't you miss rocking out? You're not a teacher, Ned. You're the cross-dressing incubus from maggot death.
Dewey, I'm not a satanic sex god anymore. I'm a sub, and soon I'll be a certified teacher.
Is this Mr. Schneebly?
I'm the principal here at Horace Green Prep, and we need somebody to start immediately.
So how much are we talking here?
$6.50 a week.
Hello, this is Ned Schneebly.
Everyone, I'd like to introduce Miss Dunham's substitute. This is Mr. Schneebly.
All right, look, I've got a hangover. Who knows what that means?
Doesn't that mean you're drunk?
No. It means I was drunk yesterday.
Now, at the most prestigious prep school in the country.
Yes, Tinkerbell.
That poster charts everyone's performance.
Where the students are rewarded for following the rules.
What kind of a sick school is this?
He's going to teach them a lesson.
There will be no gold stars or demerits.
That will rock their world.
It's called Rock Band.
Is this a school project?
It will go on your permanent record. Hello, Harvard, yo. You, what's your name?
Zach.
You ever play electric guitar?
My dad won't let me.
Zach, do not walk away from me when I'm talking to you.
What makes you mad more tn anything in the world?
No allowance, chores, bullies.
All you bullies get out of my way, cause I am really ticked off.
Mr. Schneebly, just wanted to say, that was a really cool lesson today.
Oh, thanks, dude.
All they wanted was an education.
They're going to laugh at me.
You have an incredible singing voice. People are gonna dig you, I swear.
Okay.
What they got
Clear.
was a revolution.
I've just been informed that all of your children are missing.
And if you want to be a teacher, Jack Black, the School of Rock.
I'm assuming this is exactly like Mason. Like, what was your life like when this movie came out?
I was very young when this movie came out. So I don't remember if I saw it in 2003 or I saw it at a friend's house. It was playing during the day and we kind of watched it. And it was a movie where I think we went and ate lunch and we were doing other stuff while it was on. And then at the end, I was pretty captivated by the final scene where the kids were playing a show. Cause at that point I really wanted to be an artist. And I was like, we should watch that again. Maybe there's a secret in there for how to do this. So we watched it again, right afterwards. And then, it didn't have the secret that I needed at the time to become a successful musician, but it was incredibly enjoyable. And yeah, just a wonderfully quirky little movie that I just loved as a kid.
Matt, I have tried to pull you in on other ones, and this was the first time you raised your hand and said, I want to be on this one, School of Rock. What's the personal connection for you with this movie?
Yeah, so I'm showing my age here. I was 6 years old when this came out, so I was very, very young. But there were a few comedians that really resonated with me as a kid, and Jack Black was one of those. He just literally fell into, the people that I want to watch, and it's really him and Adam Sandler, where every movie that came out, I had to see it. And this was one of them, and there's a lot of, as I've grown older, a lot of things that I've kind of tied back to even a lot of personal experiences that I've had. And so, yeah, it's just one of my favorite ones to rewatch even now as an adult, going back. But yeah, I think my first time watching it probably was in the theaters in 2003 as a 6-year-old kid because I love Jack Black that much.
At risk of throwing something in that gets cut because it's boring, a thing that I came to love about this movie is who directed it, which is Richard Linklater. And at the time, I had no idea what that meant. But in college, I got super into film history and watched a bunch of other Richard Linklater movies, which are so different from School of Rock. He is one of the most diverse filmographies. And the fact that he made this movie made me love it even more. So Richard Linklater, big shout. Good stuff.
Yeah, I saw that and I'm looking at the other movies and then, I love going through these and looking at IMDb and seeing who were the other actors and what other things were they in, because there were certain ones I'm like, oh, I recognize that person. I mean, right off the bat, Ned Schneebly, the real Ned Schneebly. I'm like, I know this guy. And the movie Hutch. He was one of the guys in the movie Hutch with Will Smith, and just trying to figure out where you've seen some of these other people. What were the things and when you start getting into the storyline, it's obviously kind of a ridiculous storyline that they're just gonna let somebody come in, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe this happens more often than I realize where there is just one. It was actually in another movie we did a month or so ago called Teachers in 1984. There was the same storyline. A guy picked up the phone and was called in to be a substitute, and he came in and became a teacher, and it was actually one of the better teachers that was there. And it's similar storyline here, where clearly comes in with no teaching experience but connects with the kids.
First, to put a pin on what you just said, when I talked about going to the classroom and kind of teaching a little bit and trying to bring artists in, I went through a program that was in Nashville at the time called Educator Ed, I think, or something. They always put ed at the end of things in education, which makes it confusing to know how to say it. But I don't think it was educated. They basically, you audition to be a sub and then they put you in a classroom. And so I felt kind of like I just answered the phone and entered a room. I had no real training. I sort of was going in to talk about music and poetry at the time. And so I had some expertise, but not really. So I feel a kinship with Jack Black now, on that front. As a kid, the thing that really hooked me was the making school about music, because I loved music more than anything. And I was like, I just want to do this all day. And then, it was I wish school was like this. And Joan Cusack reminded me of one of my aunts, and I was like, she's hilarious. So I love Joan Cusack and, love my aunt. So it's a good fit.
That was one character, that Joan, her character had like one of the most real moments I felt like in the movie, like when she was in the car with Jack Black and just talking like I hate being the principal, I hate being the one that's always strict. Like that to me was getting to know a lot of school leaders and like why they went into education, and then they feel like they have to enforce things that they don't necessarily agree with. That was one of like the most like real moments in in a really funny movie. I mean,
Totally.
We can go through. I mean, some of the things in here. We'll go through some awards, but were there any things like if you were just gonna say favorite scenes or favorite moments in the movie? What were the ones that stood out for you? Because I have a lot of notes that I could talk through too.
Man, there's a lot. I mean, that one right there that you mentioned is huge. I feel like that's something that, I mean, even in our communities, I feel like that I see a lot of is the external pressures that even school leaders kind of have to feel like they have to conform to. That's one that I feel like balancing the external expectations versus what their personal beliefs are. I feel like it's really hard, and sometimes you don't always get that. Everybody doesn't know that until you have those really deep conversations, like Dewey was able to have. So that definitely stuck out.
I have a ton of scenes, but I do want to double click on something you just said. I forgot his name is Dewey Finn. And do you think it's named after John Dewey? Do you think it's like an actual, like a Linklater Trojan horse? Like this is education?
Could be. Yeah, I think there could be.
Because that is some subliminal secret stuff, Rick.
Yeah.
Linklater.
Well, I also like Horace Green Prep Academy. I'm like, oh, is that kind of a little bit of the Horace Man of like, like some of the original way education was set up 150 years ago.
Totally. No, that's great. I mean, there's so many great moments. I think the one that lives in my brain rent free, like I don't rewatch movies, and I've seen this movie like 70 times, truly so many movies, so many times. And the scene that just refuses to leave is Jack Black's handshake with Lawrence, the piano player in the band. And then there's he does the thing where he does like the let's rock today, like hand motion. And then he does the shoot it, kaboot it. Like it is permanently there. And he also has this, as a kid, I thought it was so funny when he did, he would like, when they'd start playing and Jack Black got really excited about it. And he'd be like, Lawrence is good at piano. He will be rocking in my show. Shaga-gaga. And then he's like, stop. You're perfect. This is perfect. And I was just like, this guy is such a ham. It's so good.
You gotta think like so much of that was just improv.
Oh, of course.
Just him just making up songs about whatever the kid said back to him.
It's so funny. And there's like a little bit of a darkness in me that finds it very funny that Jack Black is in Tenacious D, which is like a very kind of adult content, inappropriate band, and is always in kids movies and doing music. And I love that like binary life where he's just kind of beloved all around and he can just fill whatever room with what they want to get. Like he's just wonderful. So yeah. So good. I love that scene.
I just loved his t-shirt that he had at the beginning, getting lucky in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
Definitely tells you a lot about the character without much effort.
Yeah. And stealing the food. Like the first time he gets in there and he's like, it's like, when's lunch and who's got food, and just goes, turkey sandwich.
So good. And they've got, it was also very funny to me, like watching it a little bit older, the fact that like groupies were a role in the classroom. Like there is something that's so funny that they made all of these different, they basically were like, look at the music industry and then everybody needs to play a role in supporting this act. That's just a very, I think a different educator would try to make everyone in the band. And he's like, no, like we know for a band to succeed, you need people to cheer them on and like be loyal fans. So
in like real life moment part of it, like anyone who raised their hand, he didn't decline anyone who said, I want to do this, and they're great, you'll be great at that. Like that was actually like really good from the educator standpoint.
Well, I mean, in general, I'm hoping to talk about this more as we continue on, but I think that this movie stands out to me because it is, in my opinion, like the best movie about education. Like it is a movie that shows what education could be when most movies are just showing what education is. And I think that is like a true testament to why this movie continues to be a lot of people's favorite at the conference you go to. It's like ridiculous, but it is also this really profound what if at a certain moment. So I think we'll continue to dig into that as we go, but just wanted to put a pin there.
Yeah. Well, and I think building off of that too, Mason, I think it also does do a good job of saying what it is, at that point in time too. I mean, you kind of see the structure of the classrooms, things like that, and what even the prep school is kind of pushing on to the teachers and what they expect the school to look like. I think that's one thing that I noticed as well, and I kind of had noted, is that it does a great job of showing what school could be, but it also does a great job at showing what's kind of the reality of the situation too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Should we jump into some of the award categories? Anything else you guys want to say just in general about the movie?
Yeah, I feel like this might just relate to my age group, but I actually, rewatching this, I completely forgot that this was Miranda Cosgrove. Like, this was kind of like one of her like breaking out moments. This kind of comedy, like I said, Jack Black's comedy is like right up my alley, and kind of similar comedy style is Josh Peck, if you guys know him, and Drake and Josh. And so, Drake and Josh was definitely like a staple in my cartoon watching as a kid. And so just kind of seeing her, and like, this is kind of like where she kind of starts her career, was really interesting. And something that I really didn't recognize until I rewatched this. And she's kind of got a similar role in this as she does in Drake and Josh as well.
So I didn't know all of that. I looked her up because I knew she was like iCarly and a lot of the Disney. I'm assuming that was Disney. I'm older, so I missed that wave. And actually, like, this movie, if this movie would have came out like 10 years earlier for me, I just imagine like all my high school and college friends just quoting every single line. But I was already like out of college at this point when this movie came out. But it's still one of those rewatchables that, yeah, I feel like you can just any moment, if this movie is on TV, you can pick up at any moment and watch it and laugh at it.
Drake and Josh, favorite show of all time. Miranda Cosgrove, huge staple in Drake and Josh. I bought a bed just to be like Drake and Josh. That was like a bunk bed where it had a lip on it, so you could keep like a guitar on there. I don't know what they tapped into with Miranda Cosgrove being just like a supporting role in these movies about music people, but phenomenal choice. I'm here for it.
Very cool. One of the best characters in the movie.
Oh, too. Summer,
like,
of course.
So I think Summer, as we go through some of these awards, I think she's going to come up a handful of times here. So
yeah, totally. The epitome of the teacher's pet, and which is very funny when the teacher does not want any pets. The teacher's just like, I just want to play music.
Yes. So if we start out, this is probably the easiest one, but the John Keating Award. Who is the best teacher? I'm actually going to just say, like, who is there even anyone else in this movie that could even be considered for this award? Because it's clearly it's about how somebody who connects with the kids becomes a great teacher.
I don't think so. I mean, to the real Ned, to his defense, we never really get to see what he's like, and everybody seems to praise him. So maybe he could in a different light, but I don't think there's any way I could give him that with what we know.
There are so few real adults in this movie that it is like it's even hard to look at it that way. I mean, the only way to flip this on its head would be that the students are mentors for Jack Black in this character. Like, because he changes the most of anybody in the movie in some ways, even though he's still very much himself. So student body maybe beats Jack Black out for mentorship. By the end.
Maybe. Yeah, when they actually go back to like pull him back in.
Right.
But I mean, the other teachers in there, I mean, they're only shown a little bit in the cafeteria sitting there, and yeah, they do not come off as good educators.
And if I remember correctly, there's a parent-teacher conference scene that's like pretty short, and the parents are all pretty upset, but they don't seem like the golden standard for mentor in that moment.
Right. Yep, for sure. Yeah. One of the best lines that was in that parent-teacher conference, which I'll just say now because I don't think it's one of my finalists for one-liner, but he says something to the effect of like, it will test your head, your mind, and your brain too.
Yeah.
I think that was in the parent-teacher conference one, or I can't quite remember where he did that.
He's got that like Jack Black delivery when he's like, it'll test your head and your mind and your too. like he's just fumbling through it in real time.
Yeah.
It's so good.
All right. So if we move into the cliques, what stereotypes are reinforced in the movie? That's the one, like, normally there's a really big, like, jock representation in movies. There pretty much none of that here. So you definitely had, like the one kid who thought he was the nerd. But yeah, Jack Black quickly tells him how cool he is.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of just like a prep kid demographic that you've got the teacher's pets. I feel like the drummer is like a little bit of a jock. Like I could see him being the most jock adjacent, and he's just kind of the cooler kid maybe.
Right.
But then, yeah, you've got the keyboardist Lawrence, who just really thinks that he can't do anything quite cool. I want to be cool. I think like what he says. So it is interesting. They don't lean into that stereotype of the cliques, which I loved as a kid. Like, I was tired of those.
Yeah, I would say it's not really a clique, but one of the things that did stand out that I feel like every classroom has is kind of like the rebel. And I feel like Freddie definitely encapsulated that perfectly. And yeah, I mean, just kind of always, saying that he didn't like school, things like that. And then kind of comes out that when he is introduced to the way that Jack Black and Dewey kind of comes in and substitutes. I mean, you can see how that whole attitude changes over time. So, I would say it's not a traditional clique, but there always is that rebel in the classroom, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, you can put Summer into one of those categories too, of just like that straight A student who just wants to know the rules and care about her grade. I think there's that, which kind of leads into the next one of the class clown. When I reflected on this one, I'm like, you know what? They really didn't turn like any of the kids into the class. Like Jack Black just stole all of that. And that may have been a really interesting dynamic to have one of the kids as like either like how Jack Black would respond to that. Would he like love it, or would it be like stepping on his toes?
There was somebody that actually did come to mind for me, and we have this defined as they may not play a major role, but they get a lot of attention. And Billy, for me, and I didn't want to give away my one-liner, but now I'm going to give it away. Jack Black said something like, "If you want to rock, you got to break the rules." And all the students kind of like point their finger, and they're saying something about Dewey and saying something about him, and then it kind of like all breaks away, and then Billy out of nowhere says, "You're tacky and I hate you." And it was so funny and so out of pocket that it just makes me crack up. So I might be giving him that award off of that one line, but it was hilarious. So I'm giving him the class clown. He deserves it after that.
Mason, got any votes?
I'm kind of with you. I think it's got to be Mr. S probably, but I do love the I mean, Joan Cusack at the bar is a rival class clown moment, but she doesn't get enough attention throughout because she finally cuts loose, and I do think that kind of redirects the attention for a bit. But
yeah, you know what? She's an interesting one to consider because she did have some just hilarious moments. Like that one moment where she's like going up the stairs and she just walks into the corner of the building and just like stands in the corner. Like,
yep,
yeah,
she's hilarious.
Oh man! All right, so this next one, I feel like there's a clear one, but the homecoming scene, is there an iconic moment, like where just everything comes together? Is it is there anything other than the concert? My vote's definitely the concert. I mean, that's when like it all comes together. The parents actually see what the kids have been working on, and it changes everything. Were there other moments that you guys thought of?
I don't think so. I mean, that one's just so big and clearly like a culminating thing for all of the loose tensions held throughout the movie. So
I mean, it's a great scene. I mean, it is, yeah, it's a great way to end the movie. It's great. Yeah. A good music. I mean, who do you think actually wrote the lyrics to that song?
I looked that up once upon a time and I don't remember. I'm gonna see if I can find Jack Black. It might be. It could, if it's Jack Black, that'd be wonderful. And they were competing against No Vacancy, the greatest band of all time, the greatest fictional band.
That was definitely a twist, of No Vacancy 1. I'll have to see if I can find anything. I should have looked that up beforehand. It's a good song.
It is. If we can get the audio to work, I'll play a little bit of it at the end.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
Great.
All right. Perfect. All right. So, one-liners. Matt, you mentioned yours. Did you have other ones you considered? Mason, what do you got? What were the one-liners that got you?
I loved his little like puns when he was giving everyone an instrument, and the one where my dad plays bass, and so whenever he would be like, cello, you have a bass, and he'd just like flip a cello horizontally. There was a part of me that thought that was like very funny, and is kind of not true at all, which made it even better. Like not even tuned the same way. So it is like a very funny little line. Otherwise, I love the "you're tacky and I hate you." That probably would have been a top contender for me as well. That's just so funny.
I feel like it'd be disrespectful though if we don't throw a Dewey one-liner in there. So I was trying to think through. There was one that I thought of. It was kind of at the beginning when Freddie said, "Are we going to be goofing off like this every day?" And he comes back and says, "We're not goofing off. We're creating musical fusion." That to me stuck out. There's so many Jack Black or Dewey moments that I feel like we could point to as one-liners. But yeah, I still feel like my other one before it has to win for me.
Yeah, the other ones that I had was, did he say Miss Lemons must be on crack, right, kids? Did he say Miss Lemons or was he referring to Miss Mullins? I don't know.
I don't remember, but
I feel like he has to be saying Mullins, and it was funny because she was still in the room too, and it's like she almost kind of like passed over it like nothing was said. That's what made it even funnier for me. Was I don't know if she just didn't hear it or what, or maybe you're right. Maybe it was him saying somebody else. I don't know, but I thought it was Miss Mullins.
Yeah, and then the one that I feel like is probably one of the more quotable ones is when he gets fired from his band early on, and he holds up his hand of the "read between the lines."
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And then he says, "Yeah." There's so many good ones. The two that I just remember, they're not exactly one-liners. When his first like song he sings to the kids about the rent, when he's talking about his rent, he says. The lines are, "Well, you're not hardcore unless you live hardcore, but the legend of the rent was way hardcore," which is like just the second you actually pay rent, you're like, it is the lamest experience in the world. And then he has the one where someone tells him to sell his guitars to make money. I think Mr. Schneebly tells Jack Black to sell one of his guitars, and he goes, "Sell my guitars? Would you tell Picasso to sell one of his guitars?" Which is just like so good. So just chock full of great stuff.
The other one that was just great was from Summer, when towards the end she just looks at me and says, "I didn't do it for the grade." Like all movie, like everything she's doing is just to get a grade, and then and she lies to get them into the band. It's like, "I didn't do it for the grade."
It's so funny.
Have you ever wondered how a simple change in your classroom can revolutionize learning? At K-12, we believe the physical space is key. When we partnered with Gary Community Schools in Indiana, something incredible happened. Their classrooms were outdated and uninspiring. Using our radically student-centered approach, we reimagined their spaces. The transformation was nothing short of amazing. Teachers saw immediate results, students came back from winter break excited, more engaged, collaboration increased, and overall performance improved. One student even shared, "We have new furniture, it's like Christmas all over again." On the first day back, local media came in to cover the story, capturing the joy and excitement of students discovering their new learning environments. See how we can transform your school today. Visit kay-twelve.com to learn more about our innovative approach. K-12, because every student deserves an inspiring place to learn. Visit kay-twelve.com today.
So this category of realistic or ridiculous, I mean, the whole movie, there's a lot of ridiculous. But are there things like any accurate portrayals of school, or is this all kind of over the top? What were your thoughts in this category?
Yeah, there was one big one that I took away, and I kind of hinted on it earlier, was I do feel like this movie, from the outside, kind of like before Dewey is in there, definitely depicts education the way it still is a lot of times more traditional, overly structured, style classrooms. And it really related back to me, especially as I kind of thought back through this as like my childhood experience. And, I don't want to call one of my old teachers Dewey, because I might get in trouble with that, because there were times when he probably didn't do things the right way. But there was one teacher that like definitely I connected with, and like I just could see an old teacher of mine completely. And when I think back to it, like that was the teacher that I got the most out of, that like I still have a relationship with today. Even like just got me introduced to a lot of different skills and things that I still enjoy doing today. So I feel like it's very realistic the way the movie portrays education, but I feel like it does a great job at showing that when you do get an educator that you really connect with, you can get really meaningful connections outside of that. As for ridiculous, I know that the end scene was like our favorite, but I feel like it's very unrealistic to have that kind of performance with very little musical expertise. Mason, I'm sure you could agree, since you come from that background. But for me, maybe it's just me, but I have been trying to learn the guitar for a while now, and I just know like the complete basics. I've been going on like about a year now of lessons, and I'm still like just at the beginning stages. So I can only imagine going to that extreme. So that I'll say might be a little ridiculous. What do you think?
A lot of the students played instruments before, but he pivoted them all to be rocking. So I think there may be a little bit of a wiggle room there. I will say, from playing live music and playing on a variety of stages, the only way to play at that stage is a battle of the bands. So I think that movie had that right. Like the fact that the students got one shot, it was one song on a big stage. So I think you are correct. It is very hard to learn an instrument rapidly, but if you're doing it all day at school every day and you feel a little fuel for the first time in your instrument, like Zach Mooneyham playing classical guitar and then shredding on stage later, it's possible. For me, this movie, like I agree, it did depict how classrooms often look, especially in like a college prep environment or like a private school environment. Again, though, I really do think that this movie does the best job of positing how it can be both for what Matt just said about what it looks like to actually establish a meaningful relationship with a mentor that really changes how you navigate something. And like at Getting Smart, we're always talking about connecting schools to the community and kind of breaking the wall of the classroom, which this movie totally advocates for. It talks about getting rid of like block schedule, like who needs a schedule? Like the kid should be able to follow the thing that they really care about. And in this movie, they do away with the schedule. Like it shows a bunch of these innovative kind of learning practices, albeit totally just because the guy's a rebel and doesn't know what he's doing. But like there is something to beginner's mind, and there is something to this, just like, hey, you put something in front of a kid, get him passionate about it, and then just like keep putting fuel on the fire to keep them running. And I think this movie really does that successfully.
I thought that was actually one of the most realistic things. Is I referred to the montage. I call it the PBL montage, but it's like, I mean, it really is project-based learning at its best. Totally. He's bringing in history so that they could learn the history of music, doing costumes and the art and the lighting and the technology and the business manager, like all these components that you learn so much out of doing those types of things, where you do more of a deep dive, and then ending with kind of like that public exhibit of showing that like this isn't just for our classroom, we're gonna invite the public to see the work that we're doing. That was one of the best examples, like it really in any movie that I can think of, they did.
No, I agree. I sent this over to Matt, I think, before we had this conversation, but I wrote a blog post recently for Getting Smart that was sort of like Hollywood is the problem with schools. And like I was trying really hard to think of movies that depict school itself as a generative space for young people and kind of break the mold of what we think of as school. And School of Rock was like really the only one. Like even movies like Harry Potter, where you're like sending kids off to school, they have potions class, they have a defense against the dark arts, they're using wands, but they have these set courses and they have no real world exposure. And it's like really fascinating that this is the only one that's made it through after all these years.
Yeah, the only one I could even think of, it was more the documentary style of Most Likely to Succeed. When they did show like how the kids would be like, they really get focus, and it's not about the grade, it's about just that idea of that I did this, I finished this, and I get to show it. All right, so it kind of leads into some of these other things. that we called the iPhone effect. This hits like right before, 2003, before everyone's got a smartphone sitting in their pocket. If they did this again, what would be different? And I'm going to set it up of like, it was pretty impressive, the technology that they were doing already. They already had a kid who had security cameras, out throughout the school that, was checking to see when someone was there. What do you think would be different if it was made today? Which it should be remade today, by the way.
My guess is the kids would have started putting up music faster on the internet. And I think that they would have gotten some sort of response, or the parents would have gotten clued in earlier as to what was actually going on. And there may be, that could have resolved the tension, that could have like accelerated the tension. The kids could have had more confidence when they went on stage because they maybe got like some sort of feedback loop digitally. In that era, the only way to record music was really to like go to a studio or know someone with a Mac and like all these things. And they sort of are just like, oh, we're just going to practice, and then one day somebody else will hear this.
Yeah.
So that jumped out to me, like the inability to ship what they were working on or show anybody.
The one thing that came for me, and there's one thing that I really appreciate about this, and I think it kind of comes into the next award, but there's one thing that I really appreciated was I kind of grew up in a household that really listened to classic rock, but I never really like gravitated to that at an early age. But it really helped me introduce to that. But it kind of goes into this where I feel like if it was remade today, they probably would try to maybe connect with, I kind of changed the topic for this as instead of the iPhone effect, like the Taylor Swift effect. Like I feel like they would try to find more genres or more kind of artists that kind of relate to kids today from the younger perspective. But like I said, one of the biggest takeaways that I have is I'm so thankful for how this movie got me introduced to classic rock music, that I feel like it could do the same for younger generations for, what's popular today.
I think that's actually a really important point on just if we're dwelling on like what would change, because music has changed so much that if this happened today, the task from Dewey Finn would have been everybody create your own artist, like persona, like you are an artist, because bands just don't exist like in the same way that they like there's no collaborative music platform in the way that there used to be. I mean, no is an overstatement, but in general what succeeds is individual artists. So I think that it would have really lost this like communal sense and like all these students kind of helping shape each other, and would have just been like more like an entrepreneurship project where it's like, okay, so you sort of sing, like come up with your artist persona, like we'll write a song. I don't know. I think it would have really lost that cool class feel that was so critical to the movie.
Yeah, you know what? That's really interesting. I can see if it was made today, more of the individual artists of like projects where you'd be like, you go do it. And then maybe they would have like collaborations between.
Right. Yeah.
But they would all go off and try to figure out how they can get the most TikTok followers or the most views or, I do think you're right. Like that would be probably the biggest thing is that there's no way this would like, they would have put some video out there on, TikTok or YouTube Shorts or something and would have already been like known.
Totally.
Like if kids did that right now, I mean, it would take, 2 days before everyone knows about it.
Or you would have been trying to cater to an algorithm the whole time. And so you would have like been worried more about what you were wearing in the classroom and like done something. And then you wouldn't have been worried about the integrity of the song. And there's a lot of integrity in Teacher's Pet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he probably would have been fired very early on, because all would just take one kid taking a phone out, showing what he's actually doing in class. And a parent would check the phone and then go to Miss Mullins and be like, we got to get rid of this guy.
Do y'all know if they, the like music education program, School of Rock, that like is in a bunch of towns? Do you know if that came because of this?
It had to have. I mean, it had to have, but like that's really interesting to see like how,
because that's like a real world. I know tons of people who did School of Rock. Like that is a serious.
I mean,
program.
It's a big franchise. I'm Googling it right now to see.
We can put a link in the show notes.
You can own a School of Rock franchise.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right. I know what I'm doing
There
after
you
this.
go.
Goodbye, podcasting.
Let's see. I'm going to look at the leadership team here of when they've actually started this. But yeah, it had to have come out after the movie. Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder if they got rights or how they
I don't know
played that out.
Because it later became a Broadway musical, right? I'm pretty sure that they've done a on stage version now.
So interesting. So it did. This originally launched in a single location in Philadelphia and then in the late 90s.
Oh, wow. So it preceded the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet the movie really
Hmm.
is their best marketing tool, though.
For sure. And then they actually started franchising in 2004. So after
the movie. Wow.
Yeah. But isn't that fascinating that to do something like this, it couldn't happen within the school? It had to be like an outside of school extracurricular.
It's super frustrating.
All right. The Substitute. This is going to be a hard one. If you're going to recast the main role, is who could have pulled this off? Like I could not think of anyone. You know, like my first reaction is like maybe like Sandler. He's got a little bit of musical stuff in there, but to be able to be like actor with music skills and that passion for music, anyone you'd consider?
I mean, he's irreplaceable, but like the only person I think that can match Jack Black for energy is dead, but Chris Farley I think could have like filled that sort of front of the room energy void.
Yeah.
And the only person I could see that would play it very, very differently, but has musical and sort of a presence is Jeff Bridges. He's a music guy, and I could see him doing like a Lebowski-ish rebel in a classroom, just like I don't care about anything, I just need money. And then over time, I mean, they would have put out something like Merle Haggard or Johnny Cash or something at the end. It would not have been
right.
It wouldn't have been rock, but he would be an interesting non-ham of a character. But I think he'd make a different version.
Yeah, I feel like Will Ferrell's shown some musical interest, but
percussion at least, yeah,
percussion, more cowbell, or like his singing in Step Brothers.
Well, he had a drum off with his lookalike too, the drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Chad Smith. They had that drum off, so he's on the come up, Will Ferrell.
But Jack Black, I mean, this is like the
custom made in a lab,
the perfect role for him. Like just along those lines, I mean, we're recording here. The Minecraft movie just came out recently. Have either of you seen that?
I have not. I saw Jack Black's SNL stuff, but that's my most recent exposure to Jack Black.
I thought about trying to go watch it before, but one of my kids has seen it, and they like it's a whole new generation of people like loving Jack Black.
He's timeless. I mean, he shows up during the pandemic. He got really big on TikTok. Like he started, I think, with High Fidelity in like the late 80s, early 90s maybe late 90s with Joan Cusack again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, John Cusack was in that, right?
Yeah, both. Joan was
okay.
John's sister in that movie, which and in real life, which is amazing. And so I don't know, can appeal to anyone. And it is funny that kids continue to be the people that love him. He does have that kind of like clown energy that I think kids just really relate to.
Yeah. All right. So we got a couple other ones, and then I'm going to introduce a new category. So HAGs, we talk about the have a great summer. You know, if you're signing a yearbook, what's the lasting effect of this? I actually think like the fact that here 2 years later, and it's still super relevant, that there's these franchises like the School of Rock has like lived on. Do you guys have like anything from you guys that feel like this is, the lasting effect of the movie?
I think I would have been wrong about what I wrote in the yearbook. I think I would have said that this movie would have changed education into having more like STEAM programming or arts programming. And that's continued to be a fight like the whole time. So the fact that this movie and other things surrounding it have not been more able to integrate the arts into schools in a more like interdisciplinary way is surprising. So I think I would have said most likely to succeed in the yearbook, and I would have been incorrect.
It's kind of sad truth, huh?
Because
there's got to be teachers that have tried this, right?
For sure. And not at all to knock anybody who's trying it. I just think at scale, it's still a thing that we haven't seen fully.
Yeah, I think there was like a moment where there were all these videos, like, and I'm drawing a blank on what you would do, but like a mashup video where like the entire class would do like some type of video where they're walking through the entire school, and it felt like every kid participated in it.
Oh yeah, like a flash mob kind of thing.
Yeah. But I feel like there's just not that much of that anymore, or I'm just not getting with my algorithm and social media that I'm watching.
Well, and even art schools, even like in general, if you go to an art school, it kind of thinks about it as if it's going to be your career. like you're doing arts such that you can get a leg up to go to college to pursue the art. And this movie is really just does music as a way of like revealing something about yourself. Like it is sort of it's a catalyst for belonging and identity, not for a pathway to success. So I think there's some places where it probably did fuel these like School of Rock extracurricular things, or maybe made more of an arts school somewhere, but it still just like is lacking that interdisciplinary project-based structure that this really gestures at.
Yeah. But you hate it too, Mason, of like there are just so few like bands anymore.
Totally.
And yeah, I just miss that style, like just the music and the collaboration that comes from the bands. And you can kind of see it, like the ones that are touring are, like a lot of these bands that have been around for a long time are the ones out there. But most of today's artists are the individual artists.
It's just who the labels are backing. It's a tough industry to make enough money to live. So if you have to split it 3 ways, you might as well not. Or you're One Direction, and that's kind of a band. And then they all leave and go do their own thing. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Where are they now? If reunion 22 years later, where are the main characters? What are they doing? What are they doing today?
I think it hinted at it for Dewey, having the after school program there at the end. I mean, I thought that was like a great like transition there. And I loved that it was at his apartment. I thought that was even better. But I feel like it kind of hinted, where he would probably be at. I think on some of the other characters.
Joan Cusack is very gratefully retired, I'm sure, and no longer a stern principal, and is now just like listening to Zeppelin in a bathrobe. My favorite factoid about School of Rock, this is a little bit of a meta on this question, which is where one of the actors is now. The guy who plays Spider, who is the guitarist in No Vacancy with only leather sleeves and no shirt,
Yes. Yeah.
who like vaguely seduces Joan Cusack as principal.
Right.
He is now a district attorney in West Texas.
No way.
Yeah. Which is hilarious to me. And he like all the photo, like people have done those kind of dumb internet stories on like where he is now. And he's just like up behind a podium in like a full suit with short hair. And I'm like, oh gosh, where you once were. No Vacancy did not make it as a band, apparently.
Yeah. What do any of the other kids who you think they continue on with music? You think Summer's like an attorney somewhere?
Summer's probably like a dean of a college.
Yes, I could see that. Yeah.
Billy's definitely a fashion designer. I mean, the kid just had a knack. And Lawrence is probably the coolest person you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lawrence probably like invented AI.
True.
All right, so this is the new category that I want to add. I want to add a Battle of the Bands category. Best song of the movie.
I feel like there's a scene that is when they're driving in the car, and I think it's Zeppelin when it does like the and they're like screaming at each other, and then they turn to each other and they start kind of like singing the words. That to me is like the most kind of secret music scene in that movie that I love and like captures the energy of the film. But Legend of the Ren is Way Hardcore is certainly the best song in the movie.
I think one that went unnoticed was, but it was at the credit scene that he was singing at. I don't know if you guys like watched the end there. I'm trying to remember what that's called. It's a long way to the top. Is that what it was?
Oh yeah.
Am I thinking of the right one?
Yep. If you want to rock and roll.
Yes. If you want to rock and roll. Yep.
I'm scrolling through all of these right now because there are so many good ones in here. I mean, the fact they use Substitute, the Pete Townshend and the Who song, like, and they're like, that's great that they found a way to pull it. And when he quotes the greatest love of all.
Oh yeah. That's very funny.
I believe the children are our future. What did they call it? School of Rock? Was that what they called the last song that they played?
The
song
concert?
at the end? Yeah, at the concert.
I think it's Teacher's Pet.
It's Teacher's Pet. Yeah. Teacher's Pet.
It doesn't say who wrote it. I'm trying to find that.
I found it somewhere. It's not anybody in the movie. They're like actual writers. I didn't know their names.
Well, good job. Any other categories you want to introduce? I feel like I want to call it like the No Vacancy award or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
like some like obscure reference that when we do this category for future shows.
They're just like, where did that come from?
Well, Mason, let's pull it back to real world, or do you want? I want to hear some music.
All right. Baby, we were making straight A's, but we were stuck in the dumb days. Don't take much to memorize your lies. I feel like I've been hypnotized. And then that magic man, he come to town. Woo-wee, he done spun my head around. He said recess is in session, 2 and 2 make 5. And now, baby, well, I'm alive. Oh yeah, I am alive. And if you wanna be the teacher's pet, baby, you just better forget it. I got no reason, or I got no rhyme. You better get me to school on time. There's a song for you.
That's awesome.
You
yeah. I feel like we're the groupies now.
Oh, thanks. It means the world.
That's awesome. Man, very cool.
Is that the first live music performance on the Better Learning podcast?
I think it is.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, we did have a superintendent sing something. I can't remember what, but yeah.
All right. Cool.
Well, awesome, Mason. Real world, pulling it back, the work you're doing at Getting Smart. Anything you want to share with the audience? Things that you think they would find relevant that we can point them your way.
Just to reiterate some of the stuff that I've already shared. There's a blog I think you all will put in the show notes where I continue to think about this through. I just have this guitar here; it's too tight to take it off. So
yeah, it's
going to be
great.
here.
Keep it.
So
just keep strumming along.
Okay,
give it a little. Yeah.
I keep thinking a lot about this supply side, demand side problem in education. I think historically, Getting Smart and other organizations have been really focused on the supply side, which is building innovative schools, encouraging new teacher programs, this kind of thing. But I think Hollywood has actually done a lot of counterintuitive work to that, which is creating a demand side problem where, like, if kids only know that they want lockers and mascots, they're not going to pick the innovative charter that doesn't have a football team. Like, so there's a problem with how people perceive innovative schools, and they keep choosing the thing that is more familiar, where their friends go, where it looks like what they see in the movies, to have that sort of token high school experience. And High School Musical, Mean Girls, Breakfast Club, all these movies that really have just kind of done the same thing for 50 years. We're writing a lot about that. Like, how do you facilitate this demand side change? Which is, again, why I love School of Rock. I think it starts to do some of that. So we're thinking a lot about that. We recently launched a new podcast called Catching Up. It's just in the Getting Smart podcast feed, but it's myself and my colleague, Nate McLennan. And we're kind of trying to do some of that work. We're talking about some of these things that are more innovative, but trying to stitch them into a more generalist audience. So feel free to subscribe and check it out. It's pretty casual. It's kind of fun. There's music incorporated as well. It's a AI generated song, and one of us has to guess the prompt that the other one used. So
I love that.
It's kind of fun. They're getting freaky good. Like, truly, they are. You will not need me to sing Teacher's Pet very long. You could have someone else come in and do it, and that person will be a bot. So, I mean, that's some of the stuff we're doing. We're always we put out 1 or 2 podcasts a week. We put out a blog every day, publications. So tune in over there to see stories of what innovation looks like in schools, and keep advocating for more different learning environments for young people. I like to think about this. I was running an experiment, and I would love to flip a question on both of you. I'm curious to see how this goes. So this is fully impromptu. Listeners they don't know what's coming.
My favorite questions.
Okay, so you're to make a movie or TV show about school using kind of contemporary touch points, using one to make a good movie about school, like about what it could be, and one to sort of cement what school is at its worst. What style show, movie are you doing that? I'll give an example, like, unless you've got one, Kevin. I don't want to take your example.
No, let's hear yours.
So, like, if I wanted to really make a movie about how I think school feels to young people, it would probably be Severance Education. Like, it would be this thing where people just go into these like blank halls. They're lost. They don't really know why they're there. there's like a desire to really not show up. So you split yourself. So you have your school self and your non-school self, but that'd be my negative.
I like that. I have to think about the way to do it, but my first reaction is something where you're just playing a meaningless game. Something of the fact of like, you're playing this game, you think it matters, and you're supposed to follow all these rules, and then they wake up and realize, oh, that didn't matter at all. I was just playing a game. Yeah.
That was my first reaction too, was like almost like a dream situation where you feel like you get to the end there and then you kind of wake up and you're like, oh, I there's nothing that's been done. There's been nothing that's been completed. So that was kind of mine. I don't know if I have like a actual like example though, but yeah, I feel like just like waking up in a dream is kind of where my mind went with that.
Yeah, and I'd love to see more movies that are more just experiential type of learning moments of just like those youth. And I feel like there used to be more that, like we're kind of more that coming of age types of things, but they rarely or never happen within like a school.
No, and
it's usually from other experience or something else that's going on in their life.
Right. And I don't even think it's that hard. Like, I think you can so an example that came to mind for me was like, if you did like Only Murders in the Building, right? Like the Hulu show with Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez, cast one of those people as a high schooler, make them have a project in school to like go do an investigate, like figure out something about where they live. And then suddenly the rest of the show doesn't have to take place in a school, but you've done like a little bit of advocacy that like, oh, this is a thing that schools can do. Like it can just be a detail of a character. Or Stranger Things, like maybe one of the kids is in a micro school, one of the kids is in a charter, and one of the kids is at a public school, and all of them are like, they come together for different reasons and they all are just like quirky kids. But it's like, it's almost like we need lobbying for how schools show up in Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, you're hitting one of my favorite topics, by the way. Like we actually started a nonprofit called Second Class Foundation around this initiative. And I like the way you phrase it, of like the more, the supply side or the demand side component of it. And we always just talk about, it's like, how do we get this conversation out of these educational conferences and more to the general public and to the parents and to the kids to realize like, hey, this is not like, you're not, like you don't have to be the first one that takes the risk of saying I don't want my kid to be the experiment. Like there are a lot of, whether we call them experiments or alternative types of options that are already out there and have been around for a while, but it still feels like it's a risky thing for parents to do.
Totally.
And I'm with you on that initiative.
But anyway, I think we're thinking about those things. And then final thought, like this is super wonky, but the Ezra Klein, the podcast host at the Ezra Klein show, he's got a new book called Abundance, which is all about this like policy agenda for abundance instead of scarcity. Primarily they're thinking about it at like a political building houses and things agenda. But we're starting to write some stuff on getting smart about abundance in an education frame and really trying to reframe some of the conversations around funding streams and educators in the classroom and that kind of stuff. So interested to have anybody come check out that stuff. And I'd love to know what you think on it. It is a work in progress. So
awesome.
Lots all the time, but sign up and
love it. Well, love hearing the work you're doing. Yeah. I've gotten to know Tom Vander Ark through just kind of this type of work. And there just needs to be more of this type of thing. So I'm glad you guys are doing it. Glad you're doing that with Getting Smart. As we wrap up, for the listeners, if you've not already subscribed wherever you're listening, just hit subscribe, whether it's YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're doing this. And betterlearningpodcast.com is our hub for everything. This is where we get a lot of ideas, feedback, suggestions. So please go there, fill it out, and feel free to give any ratings and reviews too. That always helps. But Matt, this is your first one. Thank you for doing all the behind the scenes work. Normally now you're officially on here. We're going to have to pull you into future episodes.
Yeah, this was fun. Definitely going to be involved more.
And Mason, great getting to know you here. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, guys.
The Better Learning Podcast is produced by Matt Rogers and edited by Kelly Jones. The views and opinions shared on this podcast are those of the individual speaking and do not necessarily represent the perspectives of their affiliated companies, organizations, or associations.